Hey, how's it going? All my Global Hack Week friends. What you saw there was just my screen being shared, but it is gone now, so no worries. It's going to be great. My name is Rosendo Pili from Major League Hacking. I love the energy in the chat right now. Rio, thank you for counting us down here. Really appreciate it. And on top of that, I think your counting skills are prodigious. Outside of that, I am here to just let y'all know, like, we're gonna have another great workshop scheduled today. Um, we've had a lot of great content that's been scheduled throughout the week, but to this morning, at least for me on the East Coast, it feels like it's going to be really special because we've got a great developer relations person or developer advocate from DeSo with us by the name of Ty Fisher. He's done a workshop with us in the past, and he's going to be showing us how to get started with developing on the blockchain. Now, for any folks that haven't done it before, no worries. Obviously, this is going to be something that gets your feet wet, and on top of that, like, walks you through building out some really cool features on a product called DeSo. So without any further ado, yep, hey y'all, yep, Data Cat, Ishuna. All right, without any further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and bring him into the stream and let y'all have at it. All right.
Hey, thanks for the handoff there. Alrighty. So, as a brief intro, I'm Ty Fisher from the DeSo Foundation, and basically we are a social media blockchain, and we emphasize storing user data and allowing users to control their data, and also being able to talk to your friends and whoever else you want to follow, like you would like any normal social media application, but on the blockchain. Now, a few months ago, we did a social media UI application, which basically built out a React app where you could like pull in posts and like see your followers and send messages. But this time, I decided we should do something a little bit different, where we actually build a bot to pull down the prices of crypto from Uniswap, which is a decentralized exchange, and then post it to the DeSo blockchain. So to get started with that, I do have a link. Rosendo, I kind of forgot how to share links with you since last time we worked together. So I'm just going to send you a email really quick.
Yeah, Ty. Hey, how's it going, y'all? Back on the stream here. On the right side of your screen, you're gonna see something that says private chat. You just drop it right there.
Yep, sure thing.
All right, that's it for my cameo. I'll be right back, y'all.
Appreciate it. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here. Ooh, trippy. All right, so once you guys see that link in the chat, if you go ahead and go to that link and head over to the website, click the green button, copy the link that's right here, and then open up a terminal. And then go to any folder where you want this project to live. For me, I picked something called MLH Live because we're live at MLH. And then once you're inside of here, type in git clone, and then copy and paste that value into the terminal. And when you hit enter, it should pull down that repo from the GitHub. And then once that exists, you can CD into it. And once you are inside the application, you can do an npm I to install our dependencies. And maybe I need to zoom in here. And then I'm going to wait to see what the chat says just to make sure they're on the same page here before I go any further. All right, so with what I've shown so far, is everybody kind of following along? All right, so I'm going to take the no comments as we're good to go. If you do need to go back, just somebody send a message, and then I'll send a link to the GitHub repo, or I'll have Rosendo do that. Yep. So yeah, you open up the terminal, and depending on what operating system you're on, that might be a little bit different. But normally, if you open up your like Windows search or your Spotlight search on your Mac, and you type in terminal, you should see something, or PowerShell if you're on Windows. And then you paste in this value right here. You type in git clone, copy and paste this, and you're good to go. So it will look like this. Okay, so moving on. Once we do the npm's install step, our npmi, we can run an npm run start. And you'll see that our server is listening on port 3000. Now, the reason why we'll be doing git calls through the browser to contact our server. The reason why we're doing that as opposed to using an HTTP client like Postman is basically I don't want to waste too much time for you guys for installing dependencies. So this is like the easiest way to like call an API without making you guys download stuff. So anyways, if you look at our local host page, you'll see that there's this random post here. It says, I am your DeSo birth certificate NFT, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't really matter. What that is a random post that we pulled down from the DeSo blockchain and then spat it out onto the screen. So let's see. This is it. So if you go ahead and you open up an editor in the folder that we're working on, and then you head over to source and index.ts, this is where our logic for our server application lives. And basically, you don't need to know too much about what's going on, other than we have a DeSo object, which is what we use to communicate with the blockchain. We have a method to do something called get single post, which just grabs a random post down from the DeSo blockchain. And then we have a way to access calling this get single post by when we go to localhost 3000 / this code will get called right here. So, and this is all just boilerplate code. It's not really intended for the project we're building, but we're going to repurpose it to do what we want it to. All right, let me check on the chat here. Okay, after cloning. So after you clone in the command line, you cd into the directory that you just downloaded, and then you do npm I to install your dependencies. And then once you install it, you do npm run start. So I'm going to just send over those steps. Okay, cool. Looks like we're on the same page now. All right. Okay, so for what we'll be working on, instead of using the slash over here to test our route, we're going to create our own route. And this is where we're going to add our coding logic for our bot to basically get the price of Bitcoin and then make a post on the DeSo blockchain with it. So we can type in apt-get and then say get BTC. And as a second argument, you type in async request response. arrow function. And then what we can do to make sure this endpoint works is we can do a res.send and just say test. Okay. So now to test our changes, if we go ahead and open a terminal again, and then we type in npm run start, let's see here. Oh, we're getting an error. I think I just have to go from my other terminal. Yep. Okay, so what I'm doing is just restarting the server, and all you have to do is Control-C to kill your server, and then if you want to restart it, you type in npm run start like we saw below. And then if we go ahead and look at our local host 3000, and then let's see, what was our route name again? We type in get BTC behind here. You'll see that our response came out with the word test over here. So we do know that our route is hooked up and we're able to communicate with it. Okay, looks good so far. So now what we can do is we can basically start adding in the functionality for what we want to do. So let me think here. So in order to get the price of Bitcoin, what we're going to need to do is actually pull down some additional libraries from Uniswap to get these prices. And if you guys don't know what Uniswap is, they're basically just a decentralized exchange where you can trade tokens in a decentralized, trustless manner. So just to show you guys what that looks like. This is Uniswap. It's one of the biggest projects in crypto. And if you own a token, you can trade your ETH for whatever token you're looking for. So you could do ETH to DAI, for example. DeSo doesn't exist on here because DeSo is native to the DeSo chain where all the tokens on here exist on the Ethereum blockchain. But anyways, getting into the code here, let's first look at our package JSON. Actually, I'm just going to send this whole blob in here. So if you guys go to your package JSON and then you remove the contents of it, or removes the remove the contents of it and paste in what I just sent to Rosendo, you'll have all the dependencies that we're going to need for this specific project that we're building. So, oh yeah, it actually looks like those might already be in there. Okay, good. That was thinking ahead on my part. And if that's the case, what we can do then is create a new file called uniswap.ts in our source folder. And then I'm just going to use some of the code that I wrote last night to reference. What we're going to do is create a method called getPrice. So export const get price is equal to the arrow function, and we'll just leave that as blank for now. And looking at my code here, we got some pretty good copy and paste items that we'll need here. So let me see. I'm just going to paste these two items in, and if you can share this too, that would be great. Okay. Okay, but basically, what those two lines of code do, they're basically one is the Uniswap v3 pool ABI is basically the blueprint for what functionality exists on top of the Uniswap contract, which is useful for when we are working with TypeScript to give us IntelliSense. And then this wrap Bitcoin is the address which wrap Bitcoin lives on the Ethereum network. And if you guys don't know what wrap Bitcoin is, it's basically just an ERC20 representation of Bitcoin on the Ethereum blockchain. Alrighty. So let's see here. To get things started, it looks like we'll need to pull in ethers as our provider. So if we do import ethers from, let's see, ethers, wants it to be lowercase, we'll have our import. And then to get our provider, we do const provider equal new ethers. Let's see here, providers.json RPC provider. And then we're going to need a URL. And I actually have a URL copied, I think. I'm going to have to, no, I should actually. 1 second here. Okay, I'm going to have to go to my Emperor account really quick. And I'll explain everything that's going on in a second here. I just need to first grab a couple values. Okay, so what did we do here? In our Uniswap file, basically we grabbed the import ethers and then we created a method called getPrice. And the very first thing that we did inside of getPrice is instantiate our Ethereum provider, which basically sets up our connection with the Ethereum blockchain to directly grab prices from the chain to call the Uniswap contract, which lives on the Ethereum chain. Let's see here. Alrighty. Yeah, apologies for like all the copying and pasting you guys have to do. Also, just as a heads up, if you want to pull up the completed version of this so that you can pull down all the items you'll need without needing to look at all the messages, there's another branch on this repo called, oops, called, let's see, MLH starter app. So if you just switch to that, you'll have all the completed code, which you can see here. Alrighty. So continuing on with the code here, once we pull down the provider, this is kind of just like a lot of copying and pasting that I did from their documentation last night. It's all specific to their unique contracts, so I'll kind of just breeze through this. But once we get our provider, we're going to want a pool contract representation from the blockchain. So what we do with that is, I guess I'm just going to copy and paste because it's easiest. But what we do with that is we create our pool contract variable. We call ethers.contract. We say what the token pool value is, what the ABI value is, which is the JSON explaining the contract. And then we pass in the provider, which is our connection to the blockchain. Okay. So our token pool is going to be equal to that, oops. Yeah, come on. So our token pool is going to be equal to the wrapped Bitcoin pool. So if we just come in here and say that token pool is equal to wrapped Bitcoin, which you guys should have the value of after copy and pasting it from before, and then that the ABI is equal to the Uniswap API that we required earlier. Then we'll have everything we need for the pool contract. Okay, let me just check the chat over here. Okay, we're good. And then once we pull down the actual pool contract, what we need to do is basically grab the information for our two tokens that make up the pool. Let's see, got to do some importing here, maybe. Do some copying and pasting to be safe. Keep the IntelliSense happy. Okay. Then we also need to make this an async function. Alrighty, so was moving fast there, but basically what's happening in our method so far is we just imported the token object to get the representation of the two tokens in our pool. So we're working with wrapped Bitcoin, and the other coin in its pool is the US dollar. You can't have a standalone token in a Uniswap pool. You actually need two. So it made the most sense to have the base be the US dollar. So once we establish our token pool, which is wrapped Bitcoin and USDC, we create the pool contract. And with the pool contract, we can now grab info about our token, our two tokens. And I believe, let me see here. I believe the 0 token is our wrapped Bitcoin, and our token 1 is the USDC. So we'll be able to query information about the price based off of that call. Thanks for taking notes on what we're doing. I appreciate that. Alrighty. So before we get too far here, I guess I can't copy and paste today. That's all right. I switched to Mac the other week, and I am still adjusting to the shortcuts. So bear with me here. All right, so we added a bunch of Uniswap code, and let's first go and verify that we're actually executing things. By the way, I'm going to need to share this infra URL with people to use if they want to actually call the blockchain. So I'm going to send this over to Rosendo. And again, you can find the completed version of this application in the other feature branch on this GitHub repo. Okay, so what we're doing is we're logging out the slot object on the pool contract, and this basically just gives us some random information about the contract. I don't know why they called it slot, but they did. So let's go ahead and log it out. And once we make changes, we need to restart our server. So head back over to the server, do an npm run start, listening on port 3000. So recall that we need to call get BTC 3000. We're just querying it from the browser because that's an easy and accessible way to call node server. And then to see if things actually worked, let's look at our terminal. And you can see that we called our npm run start, which hosted it. And then when we made that browser request, we basically got back this random slot object, which has a bunch of different random values about the Bitcoin pool. And we can extract the actual value of Bitcoin from this object. see here. So if we head back over to the Uniswap page, you can go ahead and copy some of the code we had. Let's see. I think I'm missing one thing over here. Got our pool contract. Okay. We actually need this code too. Okay. Let me see. And then that should be getting logged. Yeah, okay. So first let me check the comments here. Okay, it's just the stuff that I've been sharing. All good. So to explain what I was doing on my side, basically what we had before was we grabbed a generic pool contract. We grabbed information about our token 0 and our token 1, and then we grabbed some generic slot information about that specific contract. And now we're instantiating a TypeScript object called pool, which will basically give us a bunch of helper functions to do basically math with these really big numbers that exist in a Uniswap pool. The reason why there's like a class around it is some of these numbers get really big and typically will cause like some kind of stack overflow or like some rounding error if you were to use a normal integer or like number class in JavaScript. So that's why they kind of have these wrapper pool classes to handle calculating prices efficiently. So to get the price of Bitcoin, basically what we're doing is we're asking the pool to get the token price of the 0 token, so token 0 price, and then we're just converting it to fixed, which means we're converting it to like a fixed real number, because right now it's in fraction format, and then we're multiplying it by 100 to basically add the correct amount of digits to it. I don't know why it's like this, but that's just what you have to do. Not thinking too hard about it. Okay, so now that we're returning this, you can remember from before, we have our get Bitcoin endpoint where we basically are console.logging our get price call. So let's go ahead and rerun our server. npm run start. And then if we head back over to localhost 3000 get Bitcoin, just refresh it. And then let's look at what our terminal says. So we have a promise pending. So one issue or thing that we did wrong here was this call is asynchronous, which means it's going to be returned in a promise object. So as you can see here, we're just calling get price, but we're not really doing anything to wait for it. So basically, we're just going to update this to have the function be declared to say it's returning a promise. And then, it's actually a string. So we're saying it's returning a promise with a string value nested inside of it. And then if we head over here, we can see that a promise gets returned. So if we want to actually see the value inside of that and not the promise, we call await because we're inside of an async function and we can use the wait keyword. So, so after making those changes, we go ahead and rerun our server. Let me first clear out everything. Do an npm run start. We're listening on port 3000. We can refresh the page again. And then you can see that we have a value of 20,447 being logged out. So hopefully that's what the price is right now. If we look, we can see that Bitcoin is indeed 20,465. So it's a little bit different by about $1, but that's just kind of how exchanges work. They're all going to be, let's see, a little bit different. Okay, we got a question here. I am a complete beginner and saw such complicated code for the first time. One thing I would like to know, and how very useful if you answer, how and from where did you learn all this from? Basically, it's just getting a lot of experience. Everybody starts from the same place. It's just a matter of like spending time actually coding and like going through tutorials and building up the fundamentals. So I started programming about 5 years ago. So if you just, I don't know, spend a few hours every day going on like YouTube and looking up like programming tutorials, you'll catch up really quickly. And just watch a lot of content like this where people do walkthroughs. And then also if you can get like an internship or like find people who are actively into contributing to programs online, it's always good to get a mentor that will really speed up your learning process. And like, within about like a year, this should all be like pretty easy to read and pretty, not too hard to follow. But it's just a matter of putting in time. Alrighty. So looking at the price, we have 20,447, which we were talking about before. So now what we've been doing up to this point is we've just been talking with the Ethereum blockchain. But now it's time to take the price of Bitcoin and then actually post it to the DeSo blockchain with a DeSo bot that basically will run whenever we wanted to. So if we wanted to, we could set up an interval where it would do this every 30 minutes, but instead we're just going to do it on request when we call the local host. Okay. Excuse me. So we already have our DeSo object instantiated. So if we look at our method, I think all we have to do is do DeSo dot post dot submit post. Yep. And it takes in a object. Just for consideration of time here, let me just look at my code that I wrote last night. Okay, so I basically was just coding there for a bit, but all that I added was we're now calling the DeSo object, which is hooked up to the DeSo blockchain, and then it will call to basically submit a post to the blockchain, and we're saying who is posting this, and then we're saying what we're passing in. So all we're passing in is a body object, which is the price. Specifically, yeah, it just says the price, but let's add some text here. Bitcoin price today is Okay, so that's all hooked up. And then one thing that you guys actually need to do before really doing any of this, let me remember here. Actually, no, this should be fine for now for demoing. Let me just check one more thing. Okay, apologies for kind of rambling. I was looking at the code and just thinking things through. But if we go ahead and restart our server with an npm run start, you'll see that we're listening on localhost 3000. Head over here, call the get Bitcoin endpoint. Hopefully we don't have any errors in our execution. Yep, so we see the text success, which means our call didn't fail. And then if we look at our, oh, okay, I guess it's just listening on port 3000 because we're not logging out anything. But if we look at our index file, you can see that we were calling DeSo post.submit post, and on successful execution, we're sending a success response. So let's grab this transaction that was constructed. Let's actually call this constructed transaction. We run the server. Okay. So now what we're seeing on the screen here is actually our transaction object, which is a piece of the pie when actually submitting something to the DeSo blockchain. The way that it kind of works is first, you create a transaction. Second, and in that transaction, you say what you're going to be doing. So in our scenario, we're basically saying we're going to be submitting a post to the DeSo blockchain from our bot account with the price of Bitcoin. So, but that's just a constructed transaction that's not actually submitted yet. So what you're seeing here is just the transaction, but it's not submitted. So the next step we have to do is sign the transaction with our private key, and then we can submit it to the DeSo blockchain. And this is kind of universal for any blockchain you'll work with. You basically say you're going to do a transaction. You need your private key to sign it, and then you need to submit it to the blockchain, and it will be thrown onto the blockchain in the next basically mempool or block, which is full of other transactions that are being processed as well. And once that's submitted, then you have something on the blockchain. And I know that sounds kind of rambly and probably like a lot, but these are kind of just like the basic components of any blockchain for how data goes from the real world to being actually on the chain. Okay, so I was saying our next step was going to be signing the transaction. So what we actually need to do first is get a wallet. So if you guys head over to Diamond app, and then let's see, let me zoom out here. You can see that I have an MLH workshop, which is the one that we're going to be using, but we also have my personal user account, and Diamond app is basically just one of our social media applications on the DeSo blockchain. But what you guys will be doing is clicking on the sign up with DeSo seed, and then you'll be copying the text in here. So I would download it and also maybe copy it. And then it's going to ask you to paste your text in here. And once you do that, you can basically get some free DeSo by signing up with a phone number, which I recommend you doing if you want to be able to submit a post to the chain. But once you get that string of random words, what you're going to want to do is go back to our application, and then you're going to want to head over to the utils file. And yeah, in our utils file, you should see a bunch of random code that's already pre-written. You guys don't need to worry about this too much. This gets a little too complicated to cover in a hackathon because it basically goes over like mapping a message into buffer and then signing it in buffer format using crypto library. But like you guys don't need to worry about that. What you guys do need to look at is the get key method. Now with the mnemonic that we just copied, what you need to do is paste that inside of here, and then you're good to go. So this is a random mnemonic that I just generated, but I need one with money in it because I didn't go through the phone number workflow. So let me just grab that from where I wrote it down before. Okay, so to go over what's going on here, to get our key, which is on the DeSo blockchain, which we just created through the Diamond application, we're saying we're going to use this crypto library called elliptic, and we're going to say what kind of elliptic curve we're using, which is another blockchain terminology that we don't need to go into. And then we're going to use another library called BIP39, which is a specific encoding that we're not going to go into. But we're then calling mnemonic to seed sync. And basically, this generates a private key based off of this random string of text that we just created on Diamond. And this will be your full private key for doing things on the blockchain. Now, which basically you never would want to share with anybody. But I kind of have a bot with a little bit of DeSo in it that I don't mind you guys seeing me work with. So that's all right. And then what we do is we basically create like a crypto HT node here, and then we can get the seed hex. And then from that, we can finally return our elliptic key for the elliptic curve library, which will allow us to do things like signing. Now, none of that really needs to make sense other than we have a key that can sign things. And that's the main takeaway here. Okay. Alrighty. So let me just look at the code here. Yeah, so we have our get key method, and then we also have our signing transaction method. And like I said before, this basically will just take our private key, and then it will take a message that we're sending in, and then it will sign it for us. And once we have it signed, we can just submit it to the blockchain, and it will actually live on our blockchain account. So if you guys want a high-level walkthrough, what's going on here is we're passing in a transaction hex, which is basically a string representation of this object over here, which is our constructed transaction, but in a very condensed format, which we will then take over to the DeSo blockchain when we submit our signed transaction. And then basically we just have to do a bunch of stuff where we map the message into hex encoding, and then we turn it into a buffer, which means an array of a bunch of numbers. Nothing too crazy outside of that. Yeah, and then we just return the signature. So what that means for you guys don't really have to touch this file outside of what we did over here, which was passing in the mnemonic to give access to our wallet. But if we head over to index.ts, we can then call, let's see, sign transaction. And then from our response object, I believe we have something called transaction hex that we're going to want to pass in. Let me actually look at the other repo. Yep. Okay, I'm just going to remove these two checks right here. Okay. Okay, I see what I'm doing wrong here. Okay, basically, I just needed to grab the transaction hex from our DeSo constructed post that we're having. And now all we need to do is, well, first let's see if this value is actually showing up. So let's save the page, head over to our terminal, npm run start, go to our localhost 3000, get Bitcoin, see what happens. Okay, so it's just kind of loading along. I actually don't think it's going to return a response here because we didn't call res.send, but it still should execute. So that transaction hex object I was talking about, where it's basically a bunch of numbers in hex format in like a single string, this is what it looks like. And this is our basically payload to tell the blockchain what we want to submit, but in a hex number format. And then let me just look at the chat really quick. Okay. No new messages. That's good. So let's go ahead and set this to a variable called, let's see, transaction hex. And then let's go ahead and sign it. Okay, so similar to before, we're just basically going to log more stuff to make sure stuff is showing up correctly. So what we're logging this time is we're actually signing the transaction. So before we were just looking at the transaction hex. Well, now we're taking that transaction hex, we're running it through the signed transaction code. So that's where we take our private key that we generated from our mnemonic. And then we're basically telling it to approve it. And then once we approve it, it will give us a signed transaction object, which should just be a string. And yeah, let's log that out. Okay, so restarting our server, going over to localhost 3000. Okay, so took a second here, but looks like we have our success prompt. Excuse me. So if we look at our log here, you'll see that we basically have a really big buffer object over here. And okay, it looks like it's multiple things in here. So it's both the buffer and the actual transaction. So yeah, okay. But basically, this is a representation of our signed transaction. Now all we need to do is submit it to the blockchain. So to submit it with our DeSo library object, we just do DeSo dot transactions dot submit transaction. We pass in the signed transaction, and then hopefully we're good to go. And then let's see, we can log this out too. Okay, so we're listening on port 3000. Let's execute the call again. Looks like the spinner is spinning. So, okay, we just finished up. And alrighty, so now we have this really big response object, which is basically from the submit transaction. It looks like it went through. It has a bunch of information about the post we made. So let's go ahead and check it out. Well, so you can actually see in the post entry response, which is our response object, we can see that our post that we created will have the text saying Bitcoin price today is 20,434.63. So now the really cool part is if we head over to the Diamond application, let me see really quick. Let me switch to the MLH account that we have hooked in here. Let's go to my profile, and you can see that 1 minute ago at 7:51 a.m., we posted Bitcoin price today is 20,434.63. So we just successfully pulled down the price of Bitcoin from the Ethereum blockchain, grabbed that information, created a DeSo transaction, turned it into a post object, signed it, and then we submitted it to the DeSo blockchain. So basically, we just did all sorts of trickery to basically have two different blockchains kind of communicating with each other, or at least reading data from each other, and then posting a more social implementation of it to the DeSo blockchain. Now, if we had way more time, what I would do is hook in some kind of like event where maybe it would post every time the price would swing up by 10% or swing down by 10%, or basically be a smart bot to like, let the community know who follows it on the Diamond app when the price is swinging intensely, and maybe have like a morning post and a nighttime post to just like have a consistent posting of the price. So let me see here. Okay, so alrighty. So if anybody wants to kind of learn more about the DeSo blockchain, or wants to maybe like have the complete application of this without having to do any of the work for the coding, as a reminder, you can head over to the GitHub where this application exists, and then you can switch branches to the MLH starter application, and that will give you pretty much all the code you need to pretty much verbatim do exactly what we did. All you'll specifically need to do is include that mnemonic over here on this line to basically use your own wallet as opposed to using my personal wallet, the MLH account that exists on the DeSo blockchain. And also, Rosendo, I wasn't sure how long this workshop was going to take. Looks like it took about half of our time here. So basically, I'm just going to see if there are any questions, and is it cool if there's remaining time to end it from there? So let's see. Rio, we can do it in any blockchain, right? Well, if you want to post the social aspect, you're going to need to do it through the DeSo blockchain, because Diamond application is an application that lives on the DeSo blockchain, where people basically just make social posts like you would see on Twitter. And what we did was we created a bot to post the price of Bitcoin whenever we queried it. And then basically anyone who follows that account can see it. And then I'll just hang around for a couple minutes and see if any questions come in. Yep. So DataCat 34, it costs about, I think right now, like a 50th of a penny. And as a reminder, if you go to the Diamond app and you go through the sign up flow, if it's your first time signing up and you can sign up using Google, and you include your phone number, you'll get $1 worth of DeSo through Diamond, or like maybe not $1, but at least like 50 cents. And that should cover more than like a few hundred transactions at least. So you can definitely start developing on it for free. And then if anyone's curious how we basically do communicating to the DeSo blockchain, we made use of the DeSo library, which is created by our team at the foundation. And if you want to like work with more endpoints and like understand what you can do with the DeSo blockchain, you can head over to hub.deso.org. So let me share a link really quick. Okay. And then at the developer hub, you can see that we have all these different endpoints. And basically these are all the different things you can do on the DeSo blockchain. So you can create a DAO, you can trade DAO coins, you can do all sorts of things related to decentralized organizations. You can upload images, videos, other media related things. We have NFTs where you can do various things with NFTs. Handful of things about your posts. You can do messaging, you can do likes, you can tip people, and then you can send money around. And basically, this website gives you working examples of how to call the blockchain and use our DeSo library to do it. So if you want to build with DeSo, I highly recommend using this library because it makes your life a lot easier. Do we store data on the blockchain? Yes, we do. It's pretty cheap right now because we only have about, I think we have about 5,000 daily active users, which isn't too bad. We also use specific optimizations around indexing to basically make storing data cheaper. Comparatively, if you look at something like ETH or like another blockchain that uses a virtual machine for contracts, they lose a lot of optimizations around storage because every time you post something to the blockchain, you don't have a signature to it. So your basically application has no way to intelligently index data that gets written to it. But with DeSo, because we're not an EVM chain or a virtual machine platform, you can store a lot more information, or you can store a lot more information that way. Let's see. Can you suggest any resources? I would just say go on YouTube and then type in blockchain, whatever you want to learn. So it's like if you want to learn how to build on DeSo, type in build on DeSo on YouTube. Watching these videos are a good resource if you want to know how to build applications. And then yeah, just read articles online. Follow people on Twitter who are in the blockchain space, and you'll start learning a lot that way. And yeah, blockchain's in its early stages, so I would give it, I don't know, like any immature industry, you got to give it a couple of decades until you kind of really start to see what it's capable of. It's kind of like in the 70s, we had the internet, and it was basically used to relay like text between universities for like a couple decades. But obviously, we use the internet for a lot more now, including like, talking to people, storing personal information, paying for bills, like you name it. Blockchain will do something similar. So this project, DeSo itself, is basically like a decentralized database for all social media apps where it's all shared in one place. And then the app we built itself was just a bot to basically do something interesting like share the price of Bitcoin whenever we want to see it and post it on the DeSo blockchain? And then is JavaScript the only language supported for DeSo? So nope. DeSo supports any programming language that supports like an HTTP client. So as long as you can make any kind of API request, you can communicate with the DeSo blockchain. And that's kind of the case for all blockchains, actually. But we have a library built which uses TypeScript, but there's also a Python one made by the community, which is really good. So basically, it's up to you if you want to use a DeSo library or if you want to use a different language and do a vanilla implementation of it, which I don't recommend. Alrighty, well, I think we can wrap things up then. Thanks for letting me present, guys. I appreciate everyone who watched. And Rosendo, I'll give it to you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Ty. Appreciate your time here. And as always, it has been a pleasure learning more about DeSo. If y'all want, there are going to be tons of challenges that are actually available for y'all throughout the week. In particular, you'll be able to go and use the DeSo Dev Hub that Ty had already mentioned to kind of build out different features on the blockchain as well. Be sure to check that out. And yeah, it's been real, y'all. Take it easy.